dangerous and selfless occupations in the world, firefighters risk their lives for the safety of others at a moment's notice. Even though history has not been kind to the memory of the African American firefighter, their contribution to firefighting is a significant one. Still, even with the most dedicated research, it is difficult to know the first African Americans who took up the role as firefighters. Several sources point to the summer of 1817 as being the earliest record that black firemen existed in New Orleans, Louisiana. Although black men running around stamping out blazes could have happened before then, there was no real evidence available in capturing this historic truth. According to sources, 1821 and 1833 also show evidence of freed men joining firemen ranks in New Orleans, but like before, the records were poorly kept and the facts disjointed. In Philadelphia, a band of African American men who had fireman aspirations joined as the African Fire Association in 1818. After a group of white firemen protested the move along with others in the community, the group scrapped their plans of opening a black firehouse in Savannah, Georgia. In 1824, freed and hired slaves worked alongside the fire department, but were largely regulated to assistant duties. White men, reluctant to share in the glory, kept potential black firemen at bay. In Charleston, South Carolina, 10 firehouses manned by black men were reportedly present, but they worked without pay. In fact, how it worked was that the company who put out the fires first got the pay, and only the white-owned engines could assist, basically leaving the scraps behind for the black firehouses. Patrick H. Raymond of Cambridge, Massachusetts, is universally regarded as the first African-American fire chief. Born in 1831, the Civil War veteran joined the department sometime in the 1850s. He became the chief engineer of the Cambridge Fire Department in January 1871, holding this post for 8 years. Another historic first was the volunteer firewoman, Molly Williams of the Oceanus Volunteer Fire Company. In 1818, she would become the first female firefighter after working as a slave/cook for the New York firehouse. Molly was there at the firehouse when a blizzard hit the city and an influenza outbreak had knocked most of the male volunteers off their feet. When a fire call came in, the sturdy slave in her checked apron and calico dress was the only one standing. She hauled out the pumper, and we've got a picture there. Back in the old days, they didn't have the fire engines like they have now. So they had a pump, basically, I guess, with water, but you had to push and pull it to get it where it's going. So that's supposed to be Molly right there in the front. She was the slave, and she kind of headed up the call since most of the men were sick. So again, back in that day, you literally had to push and pull the fire wagons. They didn't have the luxury of the fire engines we have today. Williams' toughness earned her the nickname of Volunteer Number 11, according to folklore. When asked, Williams always replied, "I belongs to old 11. I allers runs with that old bull engine." Much later, after the strides of the civil rights movement, Robert Lowry served as the first black commissioner of a major city. Lowry held his New York post from 1966 to 1973. During Lowry's tenure, the International Association of Black Firefighters was established in 1970. Black women have also made valuable contributions to firefighting. Toni McIntosh of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, became the first black woman to become a full-time firefighter in 1976. According to the Department of Homeland Security's website, Cecilia Owens Cox was the first woman to be assigned to a New York City fire truck company in 1984. Chief Rosemary Cloud became the first African-American woman chief for a career fire department in East Point, Georgia in 2002. Even though the early records of black men and women have been scattered over time, it is still noteworthy to mention that many of these achievements have gone unspoken. Perhaps a dedicated educator or a team of researchers will continue to bore through the countless documents, images, and personal accounts to uncover more truths about the rich history of African American firefighters. And by the way, I'll just throw a little note out there. It used to be firemen, but now you have a lot of women doing that job as well. So now they go by firefighters and not firemen. Okay, the town of Siler City is no different. If you go to the town's website and rummage through the photos, you'll find that for many years there were no black firemen at station number 9. I'm not sure who the first black fireman was in Siler City, but over the many years of service to the community, you could count them all on one hand until recently, and I mean recently. There are more blacks on the Siler City Fire Department roster today than ever before. Fortunately, most of us here at First Missionary Baptist Church had the privilege of knowing at least one of them. That fireman was Mr. Joshua M. Woods. In addition to Josh being a firefighter and EMT, he was a son, a grandson, a brother, a husband, a father, and a friend. A quiet soul with a huge heart and a beautiful smile. I didn't realize how much Josh loved being a volunteer fireman. Being a fireman takes a lot of dedication, continuous training and education, physical and mental toughness, as well as a lot of time away from your family and friends. But most of all, you have to be a caring person, willing to sacrifice yourself for others. When the call of duty comes, a fireman must go. Let's take a look at some of the things that a fireman does to prepare for that call and help take care of their community. And all of the photos that you're going to see as Lewis pulls them up on the screen, they have one common element, and that is Josh. Okay, Joshua is the first one right there. That's Josh with his group of Siler City firemen right there. So there he is standing there. Okay, then we're going to have Joshua. They have a training center at CCCC that they actually train firemen to teach them to go into burning buildings and all this kind of stuff. So this simulation that you see here, and that's Joshua climbing up the ladder there to go into the building. And you really can't tell it that well on that photograph, but there's actually like smoke coming out that top window. And so they do their training so that when the call comes in and they truly have to go out, that they kind of know what they're doing and they've prepared for it. So the next couple of pictures is Joshua at the fire training center. So you can see his feet up there at the top. So he's going in, and those are his feet hanging out the window there. And that's him right there. And I'm not sure there if he was actually coming down or going up, because I was kind of looking at his feet and it kind of looked like he was coming down. So I'm really not sure. But again, that's at the CCC training facility. And then that's him with his back to us, right there in the very middle. Lewis, can you put the cursor on that again? Yeah, that's him right there. Okay. And then we've got several pictures of Josh. Okay, this is, I guess, the training where they normally cut, with the saw training to cut people out of car accidents and stuff. So that's Josh there in the middle. He's actually using the saw, doing his training. So again, firemen, they have to do a lot of training. Okay, let's go on to the next one. That's Josh there. Looks like he's pulling some fire hoses, or a fire hose. And this was listed as agility testing. So of course, you know, a fireman has a lot of equipment to carry in addition to their own body weight. If they have all the backpacks and the tanks, oxygen tanks or whatever it is they use, plus the tools, the axes and all that, they have a lot of weight that they have to carry. So they have to be in physical shape to do all of that. So occasionally they get together and they train to pull the hoses and just to make sure that, again, that they're in the condition to do the job that they need to do. And the next one, that's some kind of training session. That's Josh in the middle right there with the orange or red looking hat. That's him, and they're having training there. And then on the next picture as well, there's Josh front and center, right there in the middle. We're facing the crowd. There, over to the left, Louis, right there. That's Joshua there. He's taking it all in. Front row and center. Okay, one more, I think it's training. There he is at the far left, right down there with the orange hat on. Yeah, that's Joshua right there. Okay, and then the next photo, occasionally the fire department goes out to different churches or different community events, and they will do safety, education type things. So this picture was one where they had gone to First United Methodist Church here in Salt City, and they were doing like a training session, and then that way the kids get to come up and they can ask all kinds of questions, and you can learn a lot of fascinating things. So that's Joshua on the right there, standing in the middle. That's him. Okay, and then there are several more pictures. That's one at First United Methodist Church. He's letting the little boy try on his fire hat. And there's several pictures with the kids, because you are a part of the community. So it's not just about the firefighting and the going to events. It's the time that you take to put your effort and energy back into the community. So let's see the next one. And there he is at the same event with a worker and a co-laborer in the fire department. Okay, let's go. And there Josh is in the very center again, in the back. This was during the Salt City Christmas Parade. And they had taken that picture, I guess, either before they went or either when they came back, I'm not sure. Okay, so at this particular time of the year, during Black History Month, the Christian Education Department had called on Josh several times to help with presentations and skits as we tried to remember our history. He always complied with our requests. Josh was kind of quiet, but he was a good guy and always had a smile on his face. He used to sing in the choir, the children's choir that we have here. Josh used to be a part of that choir. He was a part of the junior church here at First Missionary Baptist Church, and he ushered on the usher board. I will never forget the day that he stood here, and I'm probably going to break down, but at this very podium and gave a testimony of how good God was and how he had worked out an issue for him at school. All right, during his tenure at Lewisburg College. What a testimony it was for a young man to be so humble and grateful for what God had done for him. And since becoming an adult, you could often look up right there on the right side of the balcony up there, and Josh would be sitting up there with his family, his wife, sometimes just his children. A lot of times you'd look up and he would be sitting up there. So during our Black History Tribute today, it is so befitting to honor the memory of such a great young man. At this time, we would like to honor Josh's family. And I want to at this time ask his mom, Jackie, to stand. And this is Jackie Woods Curry. This is Josh's mother. Thank you.